Guatemala, 1952. The United Fruit Company is basically running the Central American country. It's the largest landowner in the country. Runs the railroads, the docks, the communication systems, and most importantly, enjoys a monopoly on the country's banana trade. It does, however, have one large problem. The democratically elected government has decided to seize a large portion of its land and redistribute it to local peasants. The company decides not to take this lying down, however, and, with some help from its friends to the north, decides to overthrow the government. Founded in 1899 in Boston, United Fruit quickly grew to be the dominant force in the region. Its reach was so ubiquitous that people called the company El Pulpo, the octopus. By 1930, it had bought out over 20 rival companies, becoming the largest employer in Central America. The company held so much power in several countries that a new phrase was born: Banana Republic. By 1952, however, the United Fruit Company's good times appeared to be running out. The government run by Jacobo Arbenz passed an agrarian reform bill called Decree 900. This expropriated all uncultivated land over a certain size from large landowners and gave it to poor labourers and peasants, who would then be able to begin farms of their own. By June of 1954, 1.4 million acres had been redistributed to approximately 500,000 individuals, or roughly 1/6 of the population. Why was this new bill such a big deal for the United Fruit? Well, only 15% of its land was cultivated, which meant the rest got redistributed. Things were already pretty bad. Company workers could now legally strike if their wage demands weren't met. And now the government decides to buy their land? Outrageous. The company responded by intensively lobbying the US government, mainly the Secretary of State John Foster Dulles, who had close ties to the company. By this time, President Harry Truman had become suspicious of the Guatemalan government and felt they were becoming a little on the communist side. During a state visit to the US, Nicaraguan dictator Anastasio Somoza Garcia told the US that if they gave him some arms, he would, quote, clean up Guatemala. The proposal did not receive much interest at first, but Truman instructed the CIA to look into it anyway. The CIA contacted Carlos Castillo Armas, a Guatemalan army officer who had been exiled from the country in 1949 after a failed coup attempt. They figured he would be the perfect man to lead the coup. It was planned in detail over the next few weeks with help from United Fruit and Somoza. The agency also contacted US-backed dictators in Venezuela and the Dominican Republic, who agreed that it would be a great idea and contributed some funding. By 1953, President Dwight Eisenhower was now in the White House, and he was determined to stamp out communism in Latin America. Plus, several members in the new administration had close ties to the United Fruit Company. Meanwhile, in Guatemala, the communist PGT party had recently been legalized and added to the government coalition. Eisenhower authorized a CIA operation to overthrow Arbenz, codenamed Operation PB Success, in August 1953. Castillo Armas was given enough money to recruit a small force of mercenaries from among Guatemalan exiles and the populations of nearby countries. The CIA established training camps in Nicaragua and Honduras, and supplied them with weapons as well as several bombers. Over 1,700 foreign guerrillas plus thousands of militant reservists were trained. On June 15, 1954, Castillo Armas' forces left their bases in Honduras and El Salvador and assembled in various towns around the Guatemalan border. The invasion hit a snag, however, when one unit of 60 men was captured by El Salvador police before they reached the border. By the morning of June 18th, Castillo Armas led his invading troops over the border. Planes provided by the CIA overflew a pro-government rally in the capital, and the nearby city of Chiquimula was bombed. He demanded Arbenz's surrender, but was politely told to get lost. Attacks on nearby towns were repelled by government forces, although the rebels continued to attack the capital, leading civilians to believe the invading force was greater than it was. The longer the invasion dragged on, however, the government feared the US troops would themselves invade. And on the night of June 27, 1954, President Arbenz announced to the nation that he was resigning. He walked to the nearby Mexican embassy, sought asylum, then left the country 2 months later. Castillo Armas took over and held an election in October. However, he banned all political parties. He was the only candidate and promptly received 99% of the vote. And that was that. The United Fruit Company got its land back, and it was back to business as usual.